Hello, and welcome to Breath and Voice Chronicles with me, Sophia Maya, and my good friend, Igor Siberia. Hello, Igor. How are you today?
Aloha, everybody. Aloha, Sophia. Yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I was telling you about, I was having like an extraordinary day today, energetically going through a lot of transition with my energy. And we started talking about energy and we ended up on the topic of sustainable living, which of
Yes.
course is always serendipitous the way things start. So we thought it would be a good idea to maybe start that as a topic today. And I know where you live, Igor, you have access to that. And we were just started to talk a little bit about the way you live. And maybe you can talk a little bit about that for us to start.
Yes, I'll be happy to. So many of you already know that I live in Hawaii, but the way I live in Hawaii is off grid. And what that really means that I get electricity from the sun that goes to the solar panels and to the batteries, and I receive electricity. And I get water from the rain, and that also being collected from the roof, and it's being captured in the water tanks. I have two of them, kind of like I have one for the house and one as a backup, and that being filtered through multiple different kinds of filters, and then that become drinkable water, as well as water to just use to wash and take showers. And so something that type of living I discovered when I moved here in Hawaii, and a lot of people practice that, because you really like off grid means that you're not depend on government and anything that might happen to the cord that connects your house to this electricity, and but you are uh, well connected to the nature resources. And something that I discovered for myself, that I start appreciating a lot more of, that sun is actually gives the energy. As we talk about it, people might heard the solar energy that just it's recommended for all humans to spend like at least 2 hours a day to get some sunlight. But here I feel like how I just actually physically receiving that, and relying on that as well, and as well as water. And so part of the island that I'm on, we have a good combination of like rain and sun. And obviously, with all the calculations, when the house been built, there is like extra water tanks just to make sure that there is always a backup in case of like a dry period of time. Who knows? Maybe that would be like for months. And I just have enough water, and I also have enough batteries um, for that.
That's amazing. And I was telling you how I live in a part of the world that is pretty cloud covered most of the year. I don't see a lot of sustainable living going on around here. I do see some people with solar panels on their roofs and such, but was it a big adjustment for you to go from, I think you were in LA, were you before that? Before you moved to Hawaii, was that a big adjustment for you? Or is that something you seeked out when you went there, or is it just where you kind of ended up?
Yeah. I was in San Francisco, and then I was for a short period of time in Los Angeles before I moved to Hawaii. Um, I guess once you understand the concept of it, I was just instantly obsessed that I can just be that the sustainability, that there's a way of living that exists in the world, that you don't have to rely on like government, and you can just be like self sustain yourself. Kind of like it's maybe like a long-term strategy with everything that goes in the world. You really don't know what to expect, where that gonna lead us to. And just having this mindset, it's good to have for everybody. And when you mention, so answering your questions, I'm kind of like it found me in that way, and I was very happy. It was a freshly built new house with that setup, and it's a, you don't really feel the difference. You still have the same switches and like power outlets. You just, it's just like understanding that there's my batteries in that drawer. And I like making sure that there's enough, and if I need to, depending if I, yeah, there's a little bit of adjustment, but it's very easy. And based on the location in a different part of the island, because we have a different weather, just like as you mentioned that you, where you at, well, first of all, there's a winter, right? And not a lot of maybe sun sometimes. So what else people do is they have a combination when they still connected to the grid, and they have a solar panels. So, and then, so they get as much as they can from the sun that shines to their houses, and the rest they combine with like grid power. Sometimes where there is like excess of energy that been collected like over the month, then I know some of the electricity company, they actually will pay you back for that excess of electricity that you given them, because they can continue bringing that to people.
Sounds amazing, and I can imagine how quickly you would get used to, like you said, you became obsessed. How quickly you get used to focusing on living that way. Has that like expanded your ideal of even sustainable food or sustainable travel? I mean, has that affected other parts of your life too? I imagine it would be kind of like a snowball that would just get bigger the more you utilized it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're becoming more aware of just radio waves too, and all the radio towers that provide us as like a phone service or cell service, or like internet. And so I became a lot more mindful, because we all spend a lot of time with the work that I do, like online, offline, um, planning events. Is like so much communication. It's part of my life, and I accept that. And I also just making sure that I'm giving myself time to rebalance that. And so I have those EMF protection devices home in the house that reduce the amount. It's like change the frequency of those waves that being like in the
Mm.
house to something that is more digestible for us. So it doesn't affect in that level. And some other practices, what I like to do is turn off my Wi-Fi overnight and put all my cellular service on airplane mode, so I don't have any radio waves overnight while I'm sleeping of like going through me. Because when we go into sleep, our brainwave radio waves go into that theta or gamma frequency, and so it's a very fragile place. So that's became, I noticed a difference in my energy level, that I just start feeling more energized. I start feeling less fatigue in my just mind, brain. I just feel more clarity, um, and more kind of like joyful energy. I find myself that I start kind sometimes smiling for no reason, or being funny with myself. It's like, oh, that's kind of new, and that's awesome, and I like that, and I welcome that. And yeah, so that piece. And food wise, yeah, I feel like food, it's a like a big topic, beautiful as well. And just living in a world with so many options that we just most of the people just got lost, and I was there too. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of like, once I became aware of like what's available, and there is so much goodness available, and there is so much bad stuff available. And I had
Right.
periods of my life that it took me through some health problems, or I have like wounds on my legs, and there was a big sugar purge, I call that period, because I did blood tests, and I did find out that that was related to amount of it was sugar level, glucose level, like way more than normally should be, if
Mhm.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And so I was doing the big cleanse, and then I became very conscious of checking amount of sugar that I wasn't, because I was vegetarian and I wasn't checking sugar level. I was just like, my body
Right.
doesn't kind of like show, like I don't get bigger if I eat a lot more sweets, and so it was just like, I was just unaware until it came like in a physical problem on my legs. And so now I'm checking all the labels, making sure that there's minimum amount of sugar or no sugar, just to highlight. And I would love to hear what you have to say, of that. There is so many products that just overloaded with sugar, specifically so many sodas and drinks that just, sometimes I found fresh squeezed juices and they add sugar there, that
Right.
just so confusing because they're already so sweet.
True. And it's funny because you mentioned sugar as like that hidden toxic element that we don't realize that we ingest, how much we ingest on a daily basis. And you really have to start looking. And it's same as sugar, sodium is another thing that I had to really come to terms with because I was eating, like, for example, and this will probably make you laugh, hummus, which was one of my favorite foods. But depending on how it's processed, it can have just extraordinary amounts of sodium in it. And there's a restaurant nearby that I used to go once or twice a week and just get a big bowl of hummus and some
Hmm.
pita, and that would be my lunch. And when I looked up the nutritional value, actually I was looking for something else. I found out that even the smallest serving, which is really not even a full serving, had 1,200 milligrams of sodium in it. And
Hmm.
our intake is supposed to be well under 2,000 a day. And I just, it was a real like light bulb moment for me to start to really look at sodium content, because sodium causes our body to retain water, and that water can cause inflammation, and it just goes on and on and on. And, that's connected to disease and all that stuff. So sodium is another thing that is kind of hidden in everything, and you don't even realize it. I stopped eating canned foods because of sodium. I stopped eating anything frozen unless it's frozen vegetables, which I do occasionally buy because they're not available fresh. I stopped eating hummus, which was one of my favorite foods, but I don't eat it at all anymore. Every time I look at a label, whether it's store bought or from a local place, it's just loaded with sodium. And it's not the chickpeas themselves, it's the way they're stored or preserved, or however, the process is. And so especially canned chickpeas are ridiculously high. And it's just a really strange thing to become aware of. And now to realize that inflammation is tied to everything. Bad breath. If you have bad breath, it's probably too much sodium in your diet. There's so many things that it's tied to. So I had to go through a cleanse with sodium, and sugar is another thing. Of course, I keep an eye on. But I guess the sustainable living would have an effect of making you kind of more thoughtful or mindful about every aspect of your living. And does that make it difficult for you, like when you travel and you have to, you're utilizing other, maybe hotels or restaurants and things like that? Is that difficult for you, or is it just kind of like part of the landscape and it's something that you just get through and you don't really think much about?
Yeah, definitely a lot more difficult to find a good food, because when I travel, most of the time I have to buy food outside from cafes or restaurants. And yeah, there's just not always even an option to find out how they make that and what kind
Right.
of produce they use. That's why eating out once in a while, totally fine. And it's all about like having the balance in our life.
Right.
But I do value and appreciate when I at home and I able to like create this nutrition list in my life by the produce that I get. We have all the vegetables available. Just I kind of want to speak first for like everybody, that of course you want to use as much as you can all the fresh vegetables, cook them, and some of the frozen one, if they're not available fresh, could be an option. But if you use them all the time, that's something to think about and consider, to bring more fresh vegetables, because they are having a lot more nutrition than when they get frozen and defrosted. Um, that's related to vegetables. And there is now a lot of awesome practices to grow your own vegetables at home. It's quite easy and so fun. And I've seen many different kind of families, and one of the most inspiring friend who had kids, and he just, they slowly, but they have 1 2 3 pots, and like, and then when I came visit, the kid was showing me, it's like, hey, let me show you, this is our tomato, this is our bell pepper. So they already learning, because nature has
You're right.
so much wisdom, how it like grow, and it teaches for kids, for example, and for us, how to just take care. And a lot of
Right.
people like who singles, including myself, it's good to have like a living being in your place that you can take care of, because part of
Right.
our human nature, we like love to take care of something.
It's so interesting that you said being, living being, because this is recent information, and there's never any accident as to why things are inspired. But I was looking at my social media, and I purposely don't follow anyone unless I'm connected to them in some way. So I have like 3 people I follow, and that's it. I don't have any really anyone else. And I used to follow a lot of locations, and I even stopped doing that, because what I found is when I just kind of peel away everything that's not necessary, I get a lot of synchronistic posts, which are really meant to teach me about things that are relevant in my life. And one of the things that I learned recently was about new scientific evidence that plants are sentient beings. And I knew this already in my body. I don't scientifically have proof, but I have like I told you before, a really strong connection with especially trees. But when I'm outside, I talk to the grass, I talk to the rocks, I talk to the dirt and the trees. I just have a sense that that we're all part of the same energy, and they're also alive. They're a living organism. So this new scientific evidence pointed out that plants have receptors that are similar to the receptors that we have in our eyes. So they don't have eyeballs, but they can basically make out color. They can see color, and they know when you're present. And another thing they found out is when they cut a plant in a certain way, and I'm not probably describing this correctly, but the inside of the plant looks like neural pathways in the brain. So plants don't have a brain, but they have the mechanism for intelligence. So it was kind of determined across the board that plants are beings, they're sentient beings. So if you talk to your plants, I mean, you just feel validated that they're listening, and that they're really um, they're being benefited by that emotional connection to you, because anything that's alive appreciates being acknowledged. I said this before when we talked last episode, and
Right.
the that being that's in your house that you're watering, or providing love to, like you said, create a living, bringing up this being, it really truly is a life. And if we start looking at life, plant life, animal life, more like ourselves, they don't have eyes or brains, but they certainly have the same intelligence. It's just expressed differently. And this is how limited we are as humans. If we can't look at somebody's face and be validated by their response to us, then they don't exist. But plants, they're beings, and this was scientific proof, which I thought was really fun, to
That is
accentuate the importance of treating our food, especially food we grow to eat, because we're not cultivating the other food. It's out in the wild, but treating it with love and respect, and really reverence for the gift that we are given by the sustenance, or the look at it this way, that living being is giving you its body to nourish your own body. I mean, what kind of a gift is that? It just is, it's extraordinary to get that message, which validates kind of this thought process, or this mindset that I've been developing over the last couple of years, that nature feels like a family to me. It doesn't feel like just grass and trees. It feels like beings. And now this is scientific proof
Yeah, I really
that plants are beings.
like that. And like in the previous episode, we actually went a lot deeper talking about those connections with plants and trees in general and nature walks. And I'm happy to hear that there is a scientific research paper available for people who are very scientific mindset, who like have to see something like that in order to believe it. And it's just awesome to see that we advancing as well, and so it's being recognized that is making the plants are making a difference for us and our bodies. And something I wanted to mention, that when you grow your food and there's a way of communicating with your plants, with your food, that they are actually start providing you a necessary nutrition. Something that I learned from my grandmother, that when you grow food and you in a constant connection with it, so the intelligence of the plant and all the food that you are part of it, that you taking care of, and it kind of like almost like scanning you and receive the information of yourself, and based on that it provides you a necessary nutrition when the
Wow.
wherever fruit or vegetable is there. And so by growing your own food and eating that, you are bringing all the level of nutritions to yourself with the friends that you are taking care of. And I thought it's one of the most beautiful things that I learned from my grandmother.
It is beautiful. It's extraordinary. And this is part of really comes full circle with my exposure to, and this is one of the only other people I follow on social media, is a filmmaker in Ireland. I think I mentioned him to you in passing, who goes around the world and interviews indigenous people. And indigenous people just basically give short messages, reels or TikToks or shorts, messages about living with the earth and not just on the earth, about communing with the earth and about being intentional with the earth and understanding that we're all part of a huge ecosystem. And we can't live with one without the other. And in one of them, humanity was described as the four elements, that the indigenous people were earth, that the African people were water, that the white man was fire, and the yellow man was wind or air. And
Mm,
that without all of those humans, without all the elements, there's no balance, there's no integrity. And, there can't be one part of humanity controlling the other three parts. It has to be a balance. So this is where we go completely wrong when we try to advance our own agendas as a race, and we don't take the rest of humanity into account. I describe this as the head can't survive without the body. So if all you care about is being the head and you disregard the body, you're eventually going to die anyway, because the body, the head needs the body. So, this goes back to making sure that all of us are fed, all of us are cared for, all of us are in the purview of governments or parliaments or whatever, governing bodies there are, and that taking care of everyone needs to be the focus and not just those who can afford to be taken care of. And that's a whole other subject matter, but it's extraordinary when you think of humanity as the four elements and not just as people populating an earth. It really brings, it brings together the purpose of the earth and humanity as a whole. And like the connectedness of all of it, we're all connected and we're connected to the earth. It's no different. They're just different expressions or different forms. And, when you think of things that way, it's so easy to see how wrong we go when we discount, portions of the population because we don't understand them, and why diversity is such a difficult topic for so many people. and why our United States government and our current president is a reflection of that. He's a mirror. He's a mirror for the heartbeat of of America and where we are energetically, which is not a really great place. And so there's a whole other thing to unfold or unpack there. But my point is that the earth is a being, plants are beings, humans are beings. We're all the same. We're just living in a different form or expression of life. And it's all needs to be respected, cultivated, and cared for. And I really appreciate your outlook on that and how you have access to sustainable living where you are, and you have the mindset to live more sustainably. And something I learned from you is about radio waves, because I do not keep my cell phone in my bedroom at night when I sleep. I have a multi-level house, and I keep it on a different level because I have like an awareness of that. Although I wasn't like uh, really informed about why I was doing that. But you made a good point about the energetic bodies that we carry in this molecular form. It's so sensitive, and it's thrown off by other forms or other stimuli or garbage stimuli, which is unfortunately in the air everywhere with all of our appliances going, with the cell phone radio waves and everything else that is mucking up our atmosphere. To have that mindfulness, to be able to, turn off your internet and to put your phone on airplane mode, which I will begin to do now every night, is really a great way of minimizing the disruption to our own energetic flow, which is, like you said, very fragile, especially when we sleep. And a lot of people have trouble sleeping, and so that's something that really should be looked at by probably most of us.
Beautiful. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love how you kind of like summarize all that. And I want to add a little bit more food wise, kind of like to share to kind of make this topic full with all the food recommendations, because you can think of like what a when you go to supermarket, it's like, wow, there's certain aisles I don't even go. Like, yeah, canned food, right? That you mentioned that you do want to eat as much fresh as you can, what's available. If people who, like me, pescatarian, you want to look for wild caught fish, not the farm raised. People who eat meat, it's similar approach to be mindful and know and learn where the meat coming from, how animal was raised, how it was fed, and all this, how it was even killed. All
right,
this moments need to be taken in consideration. And here on the island, I know we have people who eat meat. I know the place where they all go and buy from that very specific farm, because they know that that's the place, and it's kind of like a word of mouth. But wherever you live, it's always takes a little bit of effort to do your own research in the area where you live, because there's like-minded people everywhere in groups,
mhm,
and there's communities, and it's just a matter of you start thinking that way, and slowly you're gonna expand and expand and expand, and making sure that everything in the food wise, from what you eat to even what you drink, very sustainable, including waters, making sure the water has those minerals. A lot of waters that being filtrated is actually a lot of minerals are being filtrated from there as well. So
right,
my one of my recommendation is also to find a local um, place of spring
right,
water, so you can actually collect like a jug of 10 gallon of that water, instead of buying plastic bottles in a grocery shop, because that's less sustainable. It's good idea of having that spring water, but with the plastic amount that being used, it's becoming less sustainable. So ideal world would be to actually find that spring water where you can collect once in a while and have that. And actually, I just realized, and there's many places, including Home Depot, they have these big jars that you can actually refill it, and at least have that as a drinkable water. that are
Right.
just full of minerals. But even with those refill station, you want to read and see what
Right.
kind of water. If it's just filtered water, then it doesn't make a big difference unless it's a spring water. So it's always things to take in consideration regarding
Right.
that.
And it's funny because water is another thing that's alive. And it's another thing that is affected by negative or positive energy. And something else I learned is that when water is piped through pipelines, the stress of the traveling through the pipelines actually kills the water. By the time we receive it through our taps, the water is dead. It has no ability to hydrate, even though you're getting the liquid. And something I learned from that same source was that, we don't die from old age. We basically die from dehydration because we don't have high quality water. And there's all kinds of studies that are done about indigenous communities who live with local water, drinking local water from local sources that aren't piped through systems or filtrated beyond repair. Live much longer. There's a whole science beyond that. And there's a movie that I watched on Gaia TV, if you're interested, called Secret of Water, that talks about this whole process of understanding the living or the life of water and how it is depleted by uh, traveling through pipes mainly, but many other ways. And, it's a good way to educate yourself about the water you drink. And there's so many other things we were talking about. I stopped using paper products as much as possible. I don't use uh, toilet paper or tissue paper or paper towels anymore that are paper. I found a bamboo option, which is really a more sustainable material. And I was so excited to find a brand in Target of toilet paper that is really wonderful. And it's amazing when you really look at what you can find. And I'm still looking for a good brand of paper towels because I haven't found one I really liked yet. But I'm not going to buy paper anymore. It doesn't make sense to me to look at trees as a being and then cut one down so I can wipe my hands, or my, it just doesn't make any sense. So it's funny how when you become more mindful, it really does start to change the way you think about using the Earth's resources. And really, this is what needs to happen en masse for us to really care more as a community or population about, you know, sustainable living so we can preserve this gorgeous being, this Mother Earth that we are blessed with living on.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. As we are
Yeah,
so interconnected, and the more we just become mindful, I feel like it's our new way of like living, coming back to as
right,
much as close as we can to how our ancestors been living
right.
before all the urbanization start happening, which is this has a lot of goodness in it, and also it kind of like got a little messy. So I feel like now we just bringing that all in combination, how we can bring the best practices of our ancestors to this modern life. And I even saw there's this beautiful veggie kind of like a stand that doesn't require soil, but with the seeds being in the water, they just start grow. In it is like a hydration kind of like system that goes automatic. I thought, wow, this is an
Yeah,
absolutely amazing, great option for like apartments. It because apartments, for example, small, and if you don't have a obviously nobody have a backyard, but there's something that you can create in your place, like a
right,
wall, and that also you can eat. So there's so many options. It's kind of like once you set your mindset to be more sustainable, and all this little pieces gonna find you. You're gonna meet those people, and yeah, also with the bamboo tissues, and now there's also seeds that with the water, which is even better because you're not even using tissues because it's just the water. It's just being washed right after you use the bathroom. So there is now more and more options, and I also happy to see that there's more and more people are feeling the call and that becoming their mission. And just with all the variety of what is available, now it's about us to make the right choice. And when we
right.
start doing that, That's how we are being a part of this big change in the world, or bringing that positive impact to the world, because we making those right, more sustainable choices.
Absolutely. What a great closing statement, because that's ultimately what we wanted to talk about. And I think we did. I think we came full circle with that. So I really appreciate the time that we spent together, Igor. It means a lot to me. And for everyone who has joined us, is there anything else you want to add, or would you like to do a couple of breaths to close the session?
Yeah, let's do a couple of breaths to close the session. Thank you everybody
Okay.
for joining us today. Thank you, Sophia. Maya. It's always a pleasure to have this conversation and see where it takes us. Absolutely awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Hmm.
And yeah, thanks again, everybody, for being with us today. Let's anchor all of that, allow all of that to get kind of settled with the breath. Take a deep inhalation. Exhale all the way. We're gonna now have 3 deep breaths. Through the mouth, take a deep inhalation to your belly. Expand your belly fully. And now exhale similarly all the way out until you cannot exhale anymore. And then you inhale one more. This time inhale even more. Expand more of your belly. Expand more of your chest. And now exhale all the way to the bottom until you cannot exhale anymore. And the one more deepest breath in of your day. And once you inhale, just hold at the top for a little bit. Just allow for that energy, for that information to just settle to your body, to your mind, to your heart, connecting, aligning, loving, and exhale. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thanks for joining Bright Voice Chronicles, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.